All right, today on the Writing Coach podcast, I have Nathan Lang. Nathan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kevin. Pleasure to be here, bud.
I know you're a longtime listener. How does it feel to be a featured guest on the show that you've been listening to?
It's pretty neat. When I first heard your podcast, I thought, someday Kevin's going to have to interview me. I didn't think it would be about this, but this is great. So
last year in November, I visited you in Barbados. I think I was there for like 5 days or a week. You did not turn on the television once the entire time I was there, but you picked up a book almost every day. So tell me about your love of books.
Oh, geez, Kevin. My love of books started, long time ago. I remember going to the library in Bell's Corners when I was a kid, little round one on the way to school. Both my parents read voraciously, whatever that word is I'm supposed to be saying. And so reading to me has always been a comfort, a way to pass time. And it's, I will pick up and read almost anything, to be very honest. But I've luckily, love of reading's been in my life since, a very early age. And, so.
I think one of the really interesting things about you as a reader is, as you said, you don't have a particular genre. A lot of readers stick with a genre for a period of time. But I mean, you've said to me on multiple occasions, you're pretty much up to read everything. Why is that?
Again, I kind of enjoy almost all aspects of things. I'm a very busy guy in my life, and I'll kind of do here, there, and everything. And I enjoy those things or finding out about them. And it's kind of the same thing with reading. Like, I don't know, probably COVID times through one of the Kobo apps where you can get, BookBub. They do good promotion for writers and stuff like that, right? And then I've fallen into a few rabbit holes from that, getting the first edition free, and then buying the next 7 books or something, or that. But through that, I've discovered the cozy mysteries and all the formulaic ones where the middle-aged woman has a relationship problem, goes to the seaside to stay with her aunt, and murder is afoot. Those sorts of like Hallmark movies, but in book form. I read a few of those a year for sure. Definitely police dramas, that sort of stuff. Like Rankin's always been a long time favorite of mine in that genre. But my love, it really is sci-fi and fantasy. Like, those are the books that if I'm going to buy a book, 90% of the time, that's what I'm going to go looking for, or I'll have that recommendation. The joy and the awfulness of what Terry Pratchett did, and the awfulness being that he died and there's no more books. But that Discworld saga, whatever you want to call it, was huge. And I remember sharing that with different friends and all that. Like, there's got to be 30 books in that process, and they're just all excellent. So yeah, here, there, and everywhere with the stuff. I really don't enjoy a lot of nonfiction, I guess, beyond not documentaries, the biographies. But yeah, I definitely read biographies of lots of different people from different walks of life. So yeah, no, I just read. I read my cereal box like 14 times.
Well, food and books, let's use that as a segue into food. I know, you're really passionate about food and cooking. Tell me about your history. I know, you're not just it's not a hobby for you. It's been a career, but it's also something you're personally interested in.
Oh yeah, very much so. So yeah, at a relatively early age, I started working full time, and it was at a Lachlan's Country Store in Hallville, and it was one of those kind of convenience stores, corner stores really. Now we did a little bit of everything. So like when I was that age, we were doing like just potato wedges and pizzas and stuff that go on that little spinny thing, but making sandwiches, doing all that sort of stuff. So in my young teens, I started with that, and then in my late teens, I started getting into the pizza business. And before Mr. Mozzarella was Mr. Mozzarella, it was House of Pizza and Video to Go. And so I started working there when I was 17 or 18. I think it was 17. And I still kind of have my fingers in that business at this point in time. And from there, it led to some culinary training at Algonquin College after doing the bartending program. And the shame somewhat there, but again, probably different path if it didn't happen this way, was I did 3.5 semesters of the chef training, cook training program at Algonquin because I got too busy running a restaurant to go to school. So, and that led me into pretty much a decade of pub work, more or less. I worked in some fancier restaurants here and there, but mostly pub down along Bank Street in Elgin in the Ottawa there. So that's food for me. And yeah, moving, I guess, to tie it into what I'm doing now with food. So I cook for myself all the time. But when I'm in Barbados, I work with a charity called Slow Food Barbados, and they do the slow food soup drive during the COVID times in Barbados. Everything shut down right away, right? Small island, flights aren't coming internationally, whatever. So they had a double-edged sword of a problem there where they had all this food that was on the island because it was March. It's like high season when they shut everything down, right? And no tourists. So all this food sitting in the hotels and wherever else on the island. And now there's all these chefs and service staff and all these people out of work. So the lady who owns or started the Slow Food Barbados um, was smart, and they realized there was a need and an opportunity right there, and they mobilized a lot of those chefs and the food and the restaurants there. Her name's Julie Hooper, and they were within a short period of time they were cooking for 300 people 3 times a week, using those produces and stuff. And so as COVID opened back up, or the island opened back up, they obviously backed off, and then those chefs went back to work, but they saw a need continually in the community. And so to this day, what day is it today? Wednesday. Yep. So Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, um, the Slow Food Soup Kitchen cooks meals for 100 people, that is delivered by volunteers throughout the community, mostly elderly, but anybody who's having a rough time. It doesn't matter. We don't, there's no criteria per se. If you want food, we feed you. And it's very nice because, again, with the ethos of the slow food is the idea that, slow food versus fast food, use what's local, that sort of stuff, sustainability. Um, we get a lot of our produce and stuff from the local plantations and farms. We try to buy the meat as well from Bajan raised animals and that sort of stuff. And we have some great sponsors and support through this because it is entirely a charity, and we do have employees or contract workers as well, so there's some costs associated with that. But yeah, Massey Food Stores is a big is basically the Loblaws of the Caribbean to a certain degree. So they help us out quite a bit, and Chickmont Foods and a whole bunch of things. But anyways, it's a really great program, and I got involved in that. So I'm there every Monday when I'm on the island, and I cook. I'm kind of in charge that Monday to cook with Diane and Tash, who are the wonderful women who run that place, run that kitchen all the time. And then they have some volunteers, people coming on vacation, or people on the island who like to come in and help cook and do that sort of stuff, or cut up 100 pounds of sweet potatoes because that's what we got that day, or whatever it might be. So yeah, I involve myself in that, and then just cooking for friends, family, and I've got a couple of big events going on in the next couple months. One here and one in Barbados, where we're doing a big dinner and a show thing. But that's something else for another time, I guess.
Well, when you think about COVID, obviously every country was influenced or impacted, and everyone had their own challenges. But when you look at a country like Barbados, where the majority of its revenue comes from tourism, it must have been just crushing to have the country shut down for years. How
Yeah,
did
they did.
how did it come out of that?
It came out of it well. Again, years was a little bit much because there was international travel, and then there's always those people who are less COVID cautious than some others. I did travel there, I think, towards the end of 21, early 22, where we still had to stay in a isolation hotel after you got there. You had to fly with the tests and that sort of stuff. But Barbados was very smart on a couple of ends. They recognized the digital nomads, and they introduced a new visa. Basically, I can't remember the name at the moment, but it doesn't really matter. But basically, if you could make $50,000 US, you could prove you could make $50,000 US from a offshore work that you could do online. You had a year-long visa that just basically you need to reapply for every year, and as long as you still have that job, you can continue. So they were very smart in that aspect because it brought international people back, and ones that are going to stay and really spend in the community and become part of it a lot beyond the week long. We're here for a drunken beach fun, which is fine too. But during COVID, that really helped them move forward. So no, it was a lot of impact for sure, but luckily they bounced back pretty quickly. Got the money back and used it in infrastructure stuff. And the island is really, it's been a great big popular destination for decades and decades, but they're really expanding some of their flights and stuff. There's actually flights out of Halifax coming this fall, direct, which is a big thing for Canadians because there's always Montreal and Toronto. Toronto year round, Montreal seasonally, and there's a lot of points now in the States. If some of your listeners and some of your clients are American, there's a lot of direct flights from there now. And historically, of course, there's 2 or 3 flights that land every day from the UK. London, Heathrow, both, I think, both fly down there, and it's TUI, it's BA, it's Virgin, all the big carriers are there pretty much every day. So it's a really accessible island. And the nice thing too that I found with it, or one of the reasons we chose Barbados initially, is that its background is English as opposed to Spanish, and that's just easier for me. It's nothing wrong with Spanish. That's the thing. I just don't know Spanish. Je parle français un peu, mais mon Spanish c'est aucun. So that was a nice thing, and it's quite a safe island too. There's not any real crime. Very rarely is it directed, especially towards the expats or the tourists. Like any major country, and there's problems with drugs and aggressive young men, I guess, for lack of a better term. But it's kind of isolated to that pocket, and I leave my stuff on my beach all the time. Go for a swim. Don't worry about it. All that sort of stuff. We're kind of in a nice area on the west coast of the island as well.
So you went through a period of time where you were traveling all around the world. You're a huge fan of travel and seeing other cultures. What is it about Barbados that drew you to kind of settle down there, having seen so much of the world?
Kind of covered a lot of the big points. The safety, the direct flights from Canada, easy access. It's like 5.5, 6 hours down or up. One way is always a little bit further because of the flights. Well, you made the flights, you know it. And then the English base, and it made economic sense at that time too, because in Canada our real estate was doing this, and in Barbados their real estate was going like this. So I was the first one in the development that I'm in that we'd be hosting this at, and um, so putting that money forward at that time to start that project, there was some incentive for me financially at that point in time. As all things go, you hope for the best outcome. It was definitely a longer process than had originally been anticipated, but as I said throughout this whole thing, if I'm complaining about how long it's taken to finish my condo in Barbados, I really shouldn't be complaining about anything in life. So
I get the impression too, from my time with you there, is you seem to really resonate with the culture. It seemed like we couldn't walk down the street without you shaking hands with someone who you knew or were doing something with. What is it about the people and the culture there that you enjoy so much?
they're just very friendly, to be honest. It's very, it's a Canadian thing to say to a certain degree, and it's especially in that kind of area where they're tourism, right? There's a fake kind of pleasantness that you can get, but I'm beyond that. They understand that I'm living there and I'm actually, involving myself in the community because as well as, so I'm a Lions member, so the Lions Club up here in Canada, and then I've also found the Lions Club near my home in Barbados, so I participate in that. And it's just like anywhere, everybody's really truly good underneath. You just got to treat them well in that way. So and yeah, no, it's a great place to be. And yeah, most people are truly friendly if you're kind of friendly to them, and that aspect is there. There is a bit of a I say, the English is what drew me, but there's definitely a patois or something of the English language that the Bajans speak. And sometimes I got to get them to slow down and really listen or whatever. And sometimes when they're a little further into their cups, it gets a little more slurry, much
Yeah,
like
you
my
certainly
Newfoundland
had to
friends.
translate English to English for me a couple times.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Well,
So
while we're talking Barbados, while we're talking food, so you introduced me to two things, to the breadfruit and to like the kind of sour apple with knives in the middle. Tell us about the listeners about these things that they might want to come to Barbados and taste.
They are so breadfruit, very diverse. I call them a tree potato because it's a large fruit or a large tree that produces these, you know, volleyball sized fruits, vegetables, whatever they are. And they're just basically a ball of starch. That's why I call them a tree potato. And they flower or they fruit 2 or 3 times a year. So there's this continual supply of good, solid, starchy, you know, fill your fill your guts kind of food, right? Um, and the traditional way that the Bajans cook them is generally over an open fire, and they roast the whole thing. So it blackens and then it steams and cooks on the inside. And you kind of have like a mashed potato-y type texture situation on the inside. And then, yeah, so the other one, I think it's called green apple, which is not maybe the right one, but it's, yeah, it'll stab you in the mouth because basically the core has very sharp protruding spines, for lack of a better term. But if you know what you're doing and you know how to cut around them, it's kind of quite a tasty one. But it's very often used as a fruit juice. And it's something you get a lot of in Barbados. They juice almost anything, and they sell a lot of it on the side of the road for six Bajan dollars or like 15 for a 2 liter jug or something along those lines. It'll depend on what it is. Sea grapes are something that I've never seen or had anywhere else. I've only known them in Barbados, and they're these tiny little berries that look like grapes somewhat, and they're about 80% pit, but they have just their very interesting flavor, and they grow in the brackish water along the coasts. So at certain times of the year, you can see Bajans in there harvesting them all, and there's a few entrepreneurial people down there. They've made sea grape jellies and cocktails and hot sauces and that sort of stuff. And I like to get it at the side of the road, and it's almost like a Pepto-y kind of pink by the time they make the juice out of it, which is very interesting. So something almost, I won't say it's unique to Barbados because I feel like that word is overused very often, but it is one of the only, it's the only place I know where you could get sea grapes. It must be around the world, but or around the tropics, but
You know, in our time together, you brought me to like a food truck where I had like the best fish sandwich I'd ever eaten. And then we also had meals in like not fine dining, but pretty high end, delicious restaurants. And so there's the full gamut in terms of food experiences that you can have there. And while you and I were like filling our faces, my wife and kids were visiting a bunch of historical sites on the island. And, you know, you and I visited a church as well. And for folks who are kind of interested in seeing the history of the island, there's tons of great opportunities and kind of tourist destinations for that, correct?
oh yeah, yeah, very much so. So the few things you hit on there, so that church is just north of a village called Whole Town, and it is, I believe, the oldest Anglican church in the Western Hemisphere. And it was originally built in like 1623, and then it had a fire, and then they rebuilt it with stone in like 1680, and it's still operational to this day. There's usually a gentleman who will give you a little bit of a tour, show you the stuff, and there's some stained glass that was actually donated from some of the Canadian Anglican Church, whatever that diocese of whatever it is. I can't recall the exactness, but that was interesting. And then dotted along the west coast, two of them are restaurants, are the old forts that the British put up way back again around that same time. I think it was Cromwell and them that were having a little bit of a tussle in England for the control. And so whoever was in Barbados built those forts to kind of keep that for their side. And my dive shop that I'm affiliated kind of partnered this is located beside what's called the Fish Pot Restaurant, which is quite a delicious spot, seafood focused, it being right fronting on the ocean. That itself is one of the old forts, the old stone building that restaurant is in, and then our dive shop is just along the boardwalk attached to it. And they have a wonderful hotel called Little Good Harbor, very exclusive 2 3 bedroom apartments kind of situation, and And then the other one is right in Spitestown, which is the closest village to where I live, about a 25-minute walk or about a 4-minute drive. Um, Fisherman's Pub is located in what's also one of the original forts, and that's a very good well, it's like cafeteria style where you line up. They have everything in trays, and you can pick whatever it might be that day. You got some flying fish, you got some cuckoo, you got some pigtails, you got all these different okras or whatever it might be. So it's a good way to experience local food at the Fisherman's Pub for sure. And again, you're sitting right over the ocean. It's just absolutely beautiful. So
Let's talk about the location. So, where we are going to be hosting this writing retreat is at your home, which is a condo complex of private apartments. Tell us a little bit about the accommodations.
yeah, for sure. So they're brand new. What this developer did was he took an existing semi-detached home and split it into 4 units. So there's two bedrooms on the bottom. There's three bedrooms on the top, and then he built a connecting entire 3-story tower with 7 one-bedrooms, a beautiful in-ground pool, and then on the roof we have a. Can you hear the loon in the background?
Yeah, there's a little bit of Canadiana there for you, folks.
Kind of neat. Anyways, and then we have a rooftop deck that's a barbecue and a restroom upstairs, and you can just relax and lots of stuff up there. So yeah, all the one bedrooms are slightly different configuration. 4 of them face right onto the pool, and then there's a few underneath. We have a few of those already secured as location as options for our attendees, and we'll look at options as well for using the 2 or 3 bedrooms depending on who's coming and what it is. So where we are, it's a gated property, so if there's any security concerns, but again, it's a very secure area. We're about 350 meters from Mullins Beach, which is one of the best beaches, or best highest rate. All the beaches in Barbados are beautiful, but the nice thing.
You need to talk American. The people attending might be American. They have no idea what a meter is.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm talking to the British then. So 350 is about 1,000 feet, bud.
To get to the beach.
To
Less than
get to the
5 minutes
beach.
or 5 minute walk to the beach. It's incredible.
Yeah, 3 to 5 minute walk, depending on how you're walking and how many people you talk to. The Seashed Restaurant is right there, which is one of the highest rated restaurants on the island. We also have the wonderful Adrian's Bar, which is a wonderful beach bar. Kevin enjoyed a few times there, and which is quite often once or twice a week. Chris Goodrich is a musician there. We have steel pan drums that go on. There's 3 different places you can rent beach chairs from, and then there's a couple if you just scooch up the road a little bit on the opposite side of the road. There's some really good local cooking during lunchtime at Heinz, HINDZZZZ, or ZZZZ for my Yankee friends. And he does, again, like it depends on the day. There'll be fish, chicken, baked, and again, he'll just scoop out whatever he's got and give it to you. A lot of the local contractors and that really appreciate that place for lunch, and it's quite cost effective because it can be very expensive to be in Barbados. Like it is a higher end location. It's a very small island. It's about 33 kilometers uppy downy and about 23 left to right. So for my Yankees again, what's that work backwards to? I don't know, about 20 and 15, something like that, roughly in your miles. And there's 275,000 Bajans who live there, plus all the people, the expats like myself who are there part-time, plus all the weekly tourists, the cruise ships, all those sorts of things. So there's a big demand, small geographic area, but at the same time, up where we are, it never feels that busy because we are kind of out of the action to a certain degree. We're on the West Coast, which, funnily enough, I always thought this was super pretentious, but hey, it's not the Gold Coast. That's in Florida. We have the Platinum Coast, where we are located up at Mullins Beach is where I am, Gibbs or Mullins Beach. So
And the
it's
critical thing about the beaches in Barbados is they're public. The whole beachfront is lined with these giant resorts, beautiful resorts that celebrities go to and whatnot.
yeah.
But there's no fencing on the beach.
That's right. You can walk along the coastline pretty much everywhere. There's a couple places where they have break walls and stuff that are a little tricky, but yeah, they cannot block the access. Even that famous place is Sandy Lane. One Sandy Lane. Rihanna's got a spot there. Simon Cowell, that sort of stuff. And it's, it's the most exclusive residence kind of on the island to a certain degree. And right 20 meters beside, or 60 feet, there's a public beach access that goes right beside it where you can cut right onto their beachfront. And they have their chairs out and that sort of stuff, but at the same time, it's not theirs. They can, the guys who rent chairs, they're there for a business, so of course they're gonna, keep their spaces, but at the same time, you can walk through. We'll walk here and there because yeah, it's beachfront. That's a nice thing too, because it's really become a problem in Jamaica where they've sold it off, and the fisher folk, the average Joe does not have access to their own shoreline anymore. So it's very nice that that's not how it is in Barbados, for sure.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an incredible retreat because, as we've talked about, the restaurants, the tourist stuff, the beach is like a 5 minute walk away. But at the
Hmm.
same time, your condo is a gated community. There is that privacy. And then, even further, it's like people aren't getting hotel rooms, people are getting apartments. They have their
Oh
own
yeah,
bathroom, their own
they're fully
kitchen.
stocked, and you got all this stuff in the kitchen. If you want to make a snack at midnight or whatever, you don't have to go down to the lobby and eat a crappy Kit Kat bar or whatever it might be. You can, stock your place with a little bit of food, or we can help you out and bring something over or whatever. So I'll be there to help everybody and do that sort of stuff. So that's all good one way or another. And yeah, the amenities are there, the pool's there, and we're actually right beside a vacant lot, a gully. So we have monkeys that come back and forth. Kevin can attest to that. And we got some nice birds, and there's the cricket, there's frogs that go off at night and that sort of stuff. It is pretty peaceful where we are. There has been some construction going on next door, but I think that's going to be pretty well wrapped up by the time this is going on in November, which is lovely. And even if it is, it's just a little bit in the morning, but they're down to finishing works now. So I'm getting constant updates from have a really good community or group with my the other owners, and usually at least one of us is down there so we can get updates as to what's going on and how that is, or we just check in with our property manager and he'll give me that. And of course, I my buddy Danny, the first guy you met on when we drove back from the airport, and I just pulled over and handed him that bottle of liquor I had you bring down for me. And my buddy Danny is still there day to day, and he's still working next door, so he keeps me apprised as to what's going on and if anything I need to know about. So it's good to have friends.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be an incredible experience, especially for someone like me. You'll go anywhere, talk to anyone. I don't like to leave my hobbit hole. And so going down there to check out the location and having you to guide me, basically, the people, you live there, you know what's to do and what not to do, and just having someone who lives there and knows the community to introduce you to it and to pick you up from the airport and drive you there, and all of those things were so fantastic. And also, like I said, all of the excitement of a tourist trip, but also all the privacy and quiet you could want if you're going down there to write and you want to sit in a beautiful air conditioned apartment, look over a great pool and write all day. You're going to be able to do that. If you want to go out to a nice restaurant or a bar or whatever at night, you can do that too. There's real flexibility in terms of how writers can approach this retreat.
Very much so. And there's a lot of wonderful natural spaces in Barbados too, where you can get Wi-Fi on the beach. And because the NCC, which isn't the National Coastal Commission or whatever it is, there's certain beaches where they have free Wi-Fi you can hook onto. If you're a headphones person, you can just chillax and get yourself situated. A lot of the bars or restaurants too. There's tons of bars, restaurants. They don't mind if you buy a thing every little while and you're using their Wi-Fi and you're doing whatever you want to do. The cell service is actually pretty great in Barbados as well too, and it's pretty easy to either get an eSIM if you're into that, or a lot of the Canadian and I assume American plans now too offer things that are cover the Caribbean. Like my phone works, it's roam like home kind of crap from TELUS now that I just take my phone anywhere and it works just like it would at home, and it's not that more expensive. Like I still think I'm like $80 a month or something like that for this plan. So, I'm over the days of doing the eSIMs, but some people find that more convenient. And again, it's pretty easy. $20 will last you a week easy. You get the megabytes you need, and then you can pretty much work or do whatever you want to do anywhere. But yeah, back at the resort, we got room around the pool. It'll depend on how many people are there and what's going on, how busy that is. But again, the rooftop deck, there's actually shade there the whole time. Just depending on how the sun is, but there is an area that's always shaded because it is warm in Barbados. It will be hot always.
But that
There's
deck, you say rooftop deck, I don't think you're necessarily capturing it right. It's like, I don't even know, it's like a backyard on a roof with a bar and a TV and a giant eating area and couches, and it's like luxury. It's not, I don't know what the proper word to capture it is, but we'll have pictures of it on the sales page for the retreat for sure. I think this is going to be a really great event because we're leaning into all of your great skills and knowledge. And then we're able to lean into my skills and knowledge as well to give people like this incredible experience. And so we seem like we're going to be good partners. But it's funny because, I think we're perfect partners for this event, but we've also known each other for like 40 years. So, I think I mentioned to you when I was in Barbados, some of my like fondest, earliest memories, and I think a lot of my life has been trying to like recapture those moments where these birthday parties that you would have, and we would stay up all night playing Nintendo and watching movies. And
yeah.
I really think my passion for storytelling and books and film probably started with those birthday parties. And so yeah, it's I don't care, I don't know if the listener cares, but for me it's really really special, to go 4 decades with someone and be able to do an event together. It started, playing BMX, what was that Nintendo game, and
Excite
playing
bike.
Excitebike, sitting on the
Yeah.
living room floor. 40
Yeah.
years later, we're taking people to Barbados and hopefully giving them a transformative writing experience. So I'm just so excited to
Yeah.
be doing this with you.
It's pretty neat for sure. Like our lives past, diverged for quite a while there. But we've found ourselves back together. And yeah, what you've done with your time and what I've done with my time really are symbiotic to a certain degree for exactly what we're looking at here, where, I'm the host, I'm the outgoing kind of person, and you have all this knowledge and base about writing and how to help people hone their craft and finish up, this years long project, finally give them that little push to put things done. And I'll provide the space, you provide the knowledge, and hopefully these writers can crank out some stuff and really just have time to focus on what they want. And yeah, I love taking care of hosting people, so yeah, the food, the drinks, all that stuff will be great, and it'll be a thing.
Fantastic. Well, I always say how busy people are, and I know you are busy, but you don't look very busy right now. You look as chill as can be on a dock, on a lake, somewhere in Quebec. So
Yep.
I'm not going to say thank you for taking the time to join me. I'm going to say thank you for giving me some of your time, and I'll let you get back to relaxing and enjoying a beautiful Canadian summer.
All right, appreciate that, Kevin. And I didn't relax all day. We had a dock getting fixed. We went into town. BMR was up at like 7. Come on,
Yeah,
dude.
you do not know how to relax. I learned.
I do
that.
know how to relax, my
Okay.
friend. I just don't need it as much as everybody else.
Well,
All
thanks
right.
for joining me here, Nathan.
You're very welcome. Thanks a lot, Kevin. Have a great night.